following lecture was given by Gul Rahim Khan of the University of Peshawar in Oxford on the 22nd of June 2019.
Thank you very much. Good morning, everyone. First, I would like to pay thanks to University of Peshawar, which sponsored this excavation, and also thanks to Ancient Indian Iran Trust and Jokreb, who invited me. So, the new excavation, latest discovery that we made here in the site of Hayathabad. We have been excavated this site for the last 3 seasons, 2017 to 2018 and now 2019. So we started work here in February, which was continued for more than 3 months and ended on 14th May 2019. First, I would like to overview the first season excavation. What was the importance, what is the location, and what did we find here. So first I want to introduce this site. Where is it located? So it is located in the modern town Hayathabad in Peshawar. So here you can see Peshawar is the main town in Gandhara region, the old Gandhara region, which looks like a basin. So it is surmounted by huge mountains, all 4 sides. So to the northeast is another famous area is Swat. In the Buddhist period, it was known as Odhyana, and to the east there is another famous site, complex site, Texla. And now in Peshawar we have some famous site like Takhbai, Aziz Dairy, Hond, Pushkalavati, and proper Peshawar. When we are coming to the Peshawar, so in Peshawar we have some important sites like Shihan Dairy, University Stupa. Earlier it was called as Tehkal Stupa. There are 2 Buddhist sites which were earlier excavated by the British excavators, and recently it was reopened by the University of Peshawar. The site of Hayathabad is located here in the modern town of Peshawar, that is called as Hayathabad. So it is the site is based on the main route which is leading from India to Kabul, Afghanistan, and beyond, that is Central Asia. So it was located as the base of mountains. It is very close to Khyber Pass, that is about 2 to 3 kilometers, and not away from Torkham area. This is the history of the mount. So earlier, which I discovered it through maps, so the site was intact at that period, 2006. So in 2006, this was the layout of the mount. So perhaps X was extended up to here because it was not a small mount. So now at that time it was confined to this area, and further it was disturbance started in 2007 and 8 when the government constructed a huge drain here for the industrial zone. So they cut the mound into 2. So the huge part gone to the north and the small mound is now existing here in Hayathabad. So now you can see this area has been occupied by high-rising constructions, and the west is also occupied by other buildings. So now we have a small area. So the mound was like this one in 2006, and now it is confined to this area, and we conducted excavation here in the yellow area. So this is the proper area where we started work in 2017. In 2017 we dug out 12 trenches, so where we found a lot of monuments, different type of structures, and a lot of other things. So this is the surface of the mount before we start excavation in 2017. And the result of excavation, we found a lot of structures. So they were sometimes they were overlapping and sometimes they were connected each other. But all structure were made at right angle, like the Indo-Greek pattern we have seen in Serkap, and we have also seen in Shihanderi and other site belong to the same period. So now you can see different level of occupations. So the upper level, and then there is a break, and then we have some evidences of a structure like here and like this one. And after this we have some other structure which belong to early level. So there are 3 levels of occupation. So the early one definitely belong to the Indo-Greek, and the middle one would be Indo-Scythian, and the later one is Kushan. So during this excavation, we discovered that the monuments were not built only in one style, but a different kind of masonry was used in the construction, like the stones which were strengthened with the small stone, and then further strength was provided by the mud. In the second category, which is not very common, so we have seen only one example in 2017, where the wall was made with stone blocks and with the combination of mud lumps. So here you can see the evidences of stone blocks which were fixed and regular interval, and then mud were also fixed over them, and then they were provided as a base for some wooden stakes. Another kind of masonry where you can see part of the wall was made of stone and part of it was made of lump. So it is very interesting because we have seen similar example in the recent excavation as well. So at the bottom level, the earliest level, we also see mud brick structure. So this area was little bit disturbed. So here we have found intact wall which was made at right angle. So four kind of masonry was found. So the most important feature of this site are the systematic workshops. So we don't see this kind of feature in other sites. So these rooms were not the living room, but these were the workshop chambers. So they set up workshops in all these chambers. So we have a lot of evidences of furnaces, quenching pots, anvil, and some other crucibles. So here you can see how they were made in the combination. So in this excavation, we found the crucibles and quenching pot were found together in one area. So this was the style of the quenching pots, and then crucibles, they were found side by side. And here you can see how they were made. So on the one side there was crucible, on the other side there was quenching pot. So some fire evidences were also observed. Another workshop, again we have similar kind of evidences like quenching pot and then furnaces. So sometimes furnaces is found in single form, sometimes they were made like twin side by side. So two furnaces were established in one area. In other part of the excavation, again we see the furnaces were built side by side. So these furnaces belong to this level of occupation because this monument belong to this period. So this period belong to the lower strata, and this one also belong to the lower strata. But this one and this one, which were contemporary, belong to the same period. Inside view of crucible, when I cleared the from inside, so we found all these were made in uniform shapes, like conical forms. So stone foundation was made to them. Furnaces were also made in different shape. One was like this one, which is a little bit rough, and this one is rectangular, sometimes square, and this one is very interesting because the base was made to some kind of pot, and then pot shards were inserted here in circular forms. So a lot of twin furnaces were found, and here you can see the combination was very same. This is the modern one which is still being used in different parts of the world, particularly in Pakistan, in India. Now the technology is taking place, but here we have some example how they constructed furnaces. So this was the outer area of the furnace, and this was the foundation. So we just found foundation, not the upper structure of the furnaces, like this one. And this was the general layout of this view of the site, how the architecture were constructed. So all these walls were made in proper angles and right angles. In this excavation, we found some interesting pottery, so which are very similar to the Indo-Greek, Indo-Scythian, and the same tradition was continued till the time of Kushans. Some painted pot, which are very interesting. They are rare, they are not very common, but again it is the typical style of the Indo-Greek pottery. This kind of pottery was also recovered from the site of Jehanderi and Sirkap. This feature is very interesting because I haven't seen it before this in other sites in Gandhara. Probably it was used as a lead which was used to control the heat of kiln, as we have seen many examples in other parts. So figurines, typical Indo-Greek style of figurines, particularly female figurines, are very common. So this is not the only example, but I have taken it as one example, but we have found many more, particularly the Baruch lady, where the style decoration is very common, and Taxila and Jehanderi. We have also found bead, a lot of bead. And the another interesting thing is here are the whetstones. So this feature is also common here in this site. which we normally don't see in other sites like Khanderi, Serkat or other Indo-Greek cities. Last year when I came here, I generally assumed that the sites belonged to Indo-Scythian and maybe the early Kushan period. At that time, we have not treated the coins properly, but now we have treated the coins of early 2 season of excavations. Now the picture is very clear because the coins now belong to the early period, Indo-Greek, and one is the local textile issue, which was also contemporary and circulated along with these coins. So first one is local textile, and the second one is Apollodotus, and the third one is Aussies. Second and the next one is not very clear, but maybe the coins of southern males, because the portrait is very similar on the. Yeah. And what do you think about this?
There's some sort of disturbance, but that's the arm. But that portrait is that's very typical.
Hermes
imitation.
Hermes
imitation.
Yeah.
Bigger arm, not from Texel. They are found. A few are found.
A few are from Texel.
Yeah. Dominant.
Yeah.
And these two.
Yeah.
So these are both coming in from Afghanistan.
Yeah. So these guys were common from Afghanistan, Gandhara, and also reached to Texel. So now, second season of excavation, what did we find in the following years? In the previous year, we excavated this area. So now we expanded our excavation towards east, towards west. So again, last year we excavated 12 trenches, and this year we also excavated 12. So in this area, we found a group of coins which contains 7 coins. Most of them belong to the Kushan period. Beginning of excavation in 2018. In this year, we went down deep and we found 7 layers of strata. So this year, again, we found a lot of workshops. So the same kind of workshops. So there was the base of quenching part, furnaces was there, storage jar. This year, we found many storage jars like this one, and other one were found in one area, granary. And here you can see this one is furnace, this one is not furnace, this is anvil. Here you can see workshop, how the workshop was set up in different compartments. So in this excavation, again, we found many workshops. So one area was here, one area was here. And all these areas were enclosed with some kind of architecture, and furnaces, quenching pot, crucibles are very common. So the same kind of distribution can be seen here. One interesting feature that we discovered this year was the burnt granary. First, we saw some evidences of burnt timber, and then there was a pot. So when we recovered the first from here, so more evidences were seen. So then we started further extension towards east. So what is there? So after this, when we went towards east, so there we found many pots. They were lying in their original form, and the storage jar were broken from the upper side like this one. So the small one were intact, which were fallen from shelf, I think. So here you can see that when the area was destroyed by some kind of fire incident, so then it was never reopened. So it was left in their original place, original forms, because we found many good parts from there. So here you can see that everything was collapsed. When the ceiling was collapsed, everything was found intact. Here you can see the outline of the ceiling where the rafter and other kind of timber were made in right angle. So in this area, we found a lot of parts. So they are very in good position. Here you can see, so they are not broken. And these, the large one were broken. And then another compartment close to towards west also yields some kind of evidences, the fire evidences, and some kind of parts were also discovered there. And when we removed this part, the big one and the small one, so we also found some food residue. So hopefully we will analyze them for further evidences. Archaeological features were also found in the western part when we extended our excavation towards west. So there the structure was normally made in mud brick architecture, not in stone. So here mud walls are very common. And again we have same kind of furnaces, crucibles. So one trench that we didn't go down, which was started excavation in 2017, but it was very interesting. So again we reopen it. So when we reopen it, so A very good masonry was found here, and we also found furnace crucibles in this area. So the crucible record in this area was very interesting, which I will show you now. It was broken from upper side. First we considered it was made crucible like other crucibles that we found in 2017 and 2018. But we started digging, re-excavating the site, so there were two different sections of the crucible. So this crucible was not made in one period, but it was re-established several times. So we have found three phases of constructions. So here you can see the last one. So when we removed this area, so there were two layers of the inside part of the crucible. So we found another one which belonged to the third phase. And then once we removed the third one, so the second one also contains same kind of evidences with this foundation of stone. So then we reopened it and we found the next one, the third one, which was also made in the same kind of architecture. Here you can see the foundation, stone foundation, and then the remaining part of half baked clay. So in this area, we found many crucibles, furnace, and quenching parts. So they were well organized. So it obviously showed that they established well organized workshops. So this is the close-up view of the trenches, which was taken from the nearby building. So it is a kind of aerial view where you can see all kind of trenches that we opened in 2018. So the one way where we found coins. So here we found mud brick architecture. So here we found mixed kind of masonry and with a lot of fire evidence, furnaces and other things. So here you can see one was taken from drone camera, but it is not clear. It is the reconstruction how the layout of the architecture was seen, which we excavated in 2 seasons of work. So this was made in 2017 and this one was conducted in 2018. So this is the general layout of this site. So what did we found from there? So in that year we found some beams, some kind of grains and some fabric and some kind of reed evidences. So this kind of evidences were found in the granary area which was burned down. Pestles are very common. So we found a lot of pestles with different kind of shapes and their purpose. Some are used for grinding, some are used for chopping, and some are used for cutting evidence. So pottery is very interesting. So this is typical style of the Greek pottery. So here we can see the painting design, painting over the frames of small bowls. So these were the pedestal bowls. So the base is sometimes broken. So again we have some evidences of the painted pottery and figurines, beads like previous year, and some ornaments, particularly finger rings, bangles, iron objects. It is the workshop area, so certainly it is the most common object. But unfortunately they are found in rusted conditions, so sometimes they are broken. We have also found melting pots. So here we can see the evidences of iron and some lumps and slags. We found no new kinds in 2018. Here we can confirm the chronology of the site. So we have some early kinds of Eucratides, and then we have kinds of Aziz, and then now we have kinds of the Kushan period properly. So the last year we found the kinds were not very clear, but now we have some good kinds which obviously help to know about the chronology and period of the site. New excavation, we are coming to the fresh excavation. This was the overview of the previous work, how to connect and how to confirm the chronology. So the last 2 seasons we work in very hot season and very hot summer, and particularly in the months of Ramadan. But this year we choose very good seasons. Snowfall on the mountains. So we started in February. So gradually we extended our excavation towards east and towards south. So this was the old one, 2017, and this was the trenches we dug out in 2018. And now we further went towards east and towards south. So now again we opened 12 trenches. So including the one we reopened, which was just started in 2017. So the beginning of excavation, so very dry season. So the aerial view at the beginning of excavation, how the site looks like, and then what we excavated at the end you can see. So the area we excavated towards south, so this area was little bit disturbed. So this disturbance was continued along this direction towards east, so which also disturbed the masonry and other features. However, this area was intact and the other area is also intact. So there we found a lot of furnaces. So group of furnaces were found here. One was crucible and one was quenching pot. In the same area we also found some ashes which were deposited in one area. So when we cleaned it, so we found a lot of ashes. So in 3 areas we found the ash pits, they were properly dumped. So we also reopened one of the trench which we started in 2017 like 2018. So this trench was also very interesting. So here we found a complete square block which was used as a workshop area. When we went down further, so there we found on the floor level some broken parts, but they were extremely in worse condition. Here you can see the broken pieces here. So close-up view of the broken parts and the view of the same trench from another side. So then we little bit further extended towards east. So this side we found a small chamber, but it belongs to different periods. So this one belongs to upper level, and this one here you can see the evidences which goes down below this wall. So now it is very clear. So this wall and then this chamber was made before the start of this occupation. So now the view is very clear. Here this one which is the old one, we reopen it, and this area which was little bit disturbed, this one, and there we found a lot of furnaces and crucibles, and as well this area. So when we finished excavation here, so this was the view of deep digging in A117, the old trench. So here we found a very good example of a crucible. So this is the best example that we have found so far. So this kind of furnaces, we have 3 kind of furnaces. So these kind of furnaces which are normally found in the deepest level certainly belong to the Indo-Greek level. So here you can see the crucibles which is now clear. This small compartment furnace, and these furnaces belong to the upper level and small. So this one is oven and perhaps used as a furnace contemporary to this. This is not furnace, this is also crucible. The same view, now we can see many structure along this level. The workshops features like furnace, crucibles, quenching pot and anvil. So last time we didn't found many anvils, but now we have many examples. One is this, and quenching pot are very few can be seen here, and this is only one example, but furnaces are very common. Some close-up view of the crucibles and furnaces that were found in this area, in the same area. So the view of excavation taken from south side, and another close-up view of the same area from south. And this is the pottery yard which is used for collecting of pottery sample, and where we classify the pottery and then we select the good example for drawing, further classification and analysis. So sometime we started competition with our colleagues. So another area where gradually we started excavation towards east. So here we also found similar example of crucible. So again it is a very good example of the crucible contemporary to the same that we found in the previous trench. Crucible was found here and some other kind of walls. So these were just foundation because the upper structures have been demolished. So one pit of ashes was also found there. So now the features are very clear. So again layout of the wall is very similar like to this stone masonry, but they were definitely belong to the Indo-Greek period because they were made of mud bricks. So again we have oven which is still being used in modern times. So the same kind of ones are very common. So we have found anvil, pate, crucible, and another crucible is here. So the same one from the east side. So these are the close-up view of different finds that we found in the middle area of our field. This is one of the good example of mud brick architecture. And then we extended our excavation towards east. When we are working here, so we were little bit hopeless because we didn't find many things like we found in the previous 2 years, 2017, 2018, and even in the beginning of 2019. So these 2 weeks were a little bit hopeless. But when we started excavation towards east, so we found another good example of architectures, and here a big wall which was made partly of stone and partly of mud blocks, not mud bricks. But this architecture is very interesting because this wall, which is a very big one, more than 1 meter, so it completely encircled the chambers of workshops. So it was made like a block. So another kind of wall was also discovered further east. So now here we can see this area was disturbed, as I told you earlier, that it also destroyed this area and this area throughout the site. So the wall is going north-south orientation. So it is a very big one. So this block separates this block from the west and the other one separated from the east. So here we can see mud blocks. So they were made in chess pattern. So close-up view of the mud blocks. So they are very hard. So I think we can see the alignment of the mud blocks. One is here, and then this one and this one. I think I have another good example. And then some were used in vertical form as well. And here we have again same alignment. So this is the cut section of the mud block wall. So the maximum length of the block is 36 centimeter. So now the aerial view in the mud of excavation. So the one we excavated and the less excavated, and now we are going here. So after some deep digging, we found some more evidences. So now new things are coming out. Here we found one kitchen area and some other monuments. Kitchen area is very interesting because we found all those parts which are used in kitchen area, including oven. So for the first time we see the iron, baking iron. So it is not made of iron, but it is made of terracotta, but it is a very unique example because normally we don't see this kind of parts. So now we have many parts, small parts, and then pitcher and some storage jars, and other small parts were used for different kind of purposes, and bowls. Another close-up view of the different kind of finds found in one area. So when we cleared this area, so a lot of ashes were found below the pots, and finally we reached to the virgin soil. So the excavation was in progress. So further east we found a lot of crucibles, furnaces, quenching pots, and this area we found some post holes. These are very interesting because we see some regular fire evidences, and then a group of 3 holes and then holes. I don't know what was the purpose, maybe used as wood sticks. One quenching pot was found here, and this furnace is different from the previous one we have seen. This one, a big one, and this crucible is very interesting because for the first time we see that it was connected with the chamber. So fire was put here, and we have collected ashes, charcoal from there. So it reached here at the base of this crucible. Close-up view of the crucible. So when we clean it, so it went to the base of this crucible. The excavation is in progress, but the time is almost over. So here you can see that many good examples of architecture were found here. Complete blocks. So one is big wall is here, and another big wall was discovered here. In progress. So in the central area, we found a very good workshop where there were 2 work station, one was here and one was here, because there was crucible, anvil, furnace, and again in the workshop 2 we have furnace, and there are two twin furnaces, one was crucible and there was anvil. Close-up view of the same workstation of cleaning is going on. So when we cleaned this area, so this furnace was different from the other one. It is completely square in outline. Circular area was found here. So when we cleared this area, so there was nothing found below down. So the twin furnace is found in the same area and crucible before cleaning. So after cleaning, we can see the clear evidences of furnaces, crucibles. Now very good example of the workshop. So it is a complete block. It is here. It is bound from the western side like big wall, and here in the east as well. So we found a portion of the wall. So another view. So there are series of workshop found in one block. Another chamber, and the wall is very clear. This wall, again, it is a very big wall. It is going toward this way. So now the series of workshops are clear. Another view of the main workshops. Now, this is the result what we found during this. So this is very, I think, very good area of the workshop. Here it is a very huge wall. Again, it is a very huge wall, and then it is enclosed. So the area was enclosed with this huge wall, and maybe towards this way, and this area is already disturbed by the constructions. So in this area we found many evidences, and this area was very deep. I was very surprised to see, because it was already in a depression, but we excavated this area, so we bit down very deep, even up to the elevated area. So there was a mixed masonry. One wall was made of stone, and another side of the wall was of the room was made of mud bricks. Stone and mud bricks, and again stones. So there are different kind of levels. One is here, and then another one. Here we found a new kind of oven when we cleared the area. So it looks like a modern micro cooking range. So the deepest level found. So different level of occupation. One is here and another is here. For the first time we see diaper masonry here in this side. So the lowest level, and then it was replaced by another occupations. So now this is the complete view of the recent excavation. Close-up view of the block. Another close-up view of the block. So now here we can clearly see the central area was enclosed with big walls. So the reconstruction of 3 phases of excavations. So this is the drawing which was made on scale. Different kind of architecture, ovens, furnaces, crucibles, again furnaces, and different kind of pots, coins which are rusted, and more figurines, a lot of beads, and now some whetstones and daggers, some other iron objects, a lot of iron pieces. So this one is very interesting. Just I want to explain it. It is basically a coin. So the inside is of copper, but I think it was dropped into the crucible, so it got rusted. So the outer area is of iron, and the inner area is copper. Lot of lumps of iron slags, jewelry, pestles, grinding stones, variety of pots. This one is a very good example. And this one, so we have a typical example that found, one is in Chihan Dairy. A lot of painted shards with a lot of ornament decorations. Another kind of decorations. It is slow. And some rope designs on pottery, some wavy lines, and some another kind of designs which are normally made inside of the reins, and some different components of the pots. And this is the result in conclusion that we found. So small excavation showed that it was a workshop come settlement town on the main trunk road leading from Peshawar to Kabul. in Central Asia. The archaeological finds and geostrategic position of the site on the main road revealed that this place was known to be a manufacturing and urban trade center. To the east and west of Khyber Pass, many contemporary towns and religious centers of this era had been established and occupied for many centuries. So the most significant feature of this site are the organized smith workshops, which yields furnaces, crucibles, quenching pots, grinding stones, tools, and whetstones. And other feature, burnt granary, kitchen area are also noteworthy. The small finds include large range of pottery, terracotta figurines, toilet tray, beads, metal tools, and copper coins. In Gandhara, Hyderabad site was contemporary to the well-known and excavated site like Serkaf, Shikhan Deri, and Aziz Deri. So the period is very clear Indo-Greek to Kushans, that is beginning of 2nd century BC to the second half of 2nd century AD. So sorry, I was in hurry. I took some more time.